Hello, and welcome to Wean Off the Palate, Episode 2, covering Bridgerton Season 1, Episode 2, Shock and Delight. I am your Ween. I am still very uncertain about what to draw today. Obviously something bad. I'm thinking it might be a street scene, so you can all admire my strong grasp of perspective in drawing. Something which comes naturally to me and I'm good at. But I guess we'll see how it turns out. Meanwhile, in Bridgerton, we open with what's clearly a flashback because it's kind of like gray colored. We see that it's the birth of Duke Hotness. And we see his evil father who is obsessing over, is it going to be a boy? The real concern, of course, should be, is my wife going to survive? But this is how we know Duke Hotness's dad was evil, besides the fact that he's been like, I hate my dad, and he's evil. So, like, we kind of did know already. This is a building, BTW. And his wife is screaming, and she's bleeding, and she's screaming, and she's bleeding, and Lady Danbury's there because she's best friends with Duke Hotness's mom. And she's like, I have to go see her. And Duke Hotness's evil dad is like, the birthing bed is no place for a lady. He is a misogynist, no surprises there. And he's the bad kind of misogynist, as opposed to the good kind of misogynist, which sometimes it kind of seems like the men who we're supposed to like in this show are. But we'll discuss that later. Of course, Duke Hotness's mom, she gives birth, and then she dies. And it's basically like, cut, shows a doctor in her crotch like, oh geez, there's too much blood coming out, and then cut her face and she's like, oh my babe, and then she says, ugh, and she dies, and only Lady Danbury even cares. And so that's how we know, okay, Duke Hotness's dad is bad. And then we cut to present time of the show and we realize, oh my god, there's a flashback that Duke Hotness is having, which is a little bit funny. It's a little bit funny to me just because, like, he's having a flashback of his own birth. You know, like, you can't actually, I mean, maybe he can't. Maybe he has a perfect eidetic memory. Maybe that's why he's so tormented by memories of his hateful father. Actually, that would make this episode make a great deal more sense, because we do flashback to, like, some clear memories of when he was, like, 4. Memories almost always where Lady Danbury is there. So, like, it also could have been Lady Danbury remembering, but it's not. It's Duke Hotness. So let's just add that to our Bridgerton canon. Duke Hotness has an eidetic memory, and he remembers every moment of his life, including the most humiliating ones. Don't worry about what's going on screen right now. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Oh, good Lord, we messed that up already. And remember, I still don't know where the erase button is. I'm gonna try the E key next time. Next time things go wrong, I'm gonna try the E key, but we're a long way off from it. No, we're not. We're actually extremely close to that. So Duke Hot thinking about how he's really sad about how his mom died and his dad was bad, and that's all very legit. Can't fault the man for that. Then we cut to the Queen, and she's getting bathed slayishly. Sadly, we do not get full quantum. We get no full quantal, but I am holding out hope for some full quantal madness later on in this season. They need to stop me. They need to stop me from making broadcasts. And the Queen is excited because she's got the next broadcast from Lady Whistledown. And Lady Whistledown is like, OMG. Daphne is hot again. The Duke likes her, ergo she is hot. Wow, this color scheme is kind of like searing at my eyes. I think I'm gonna have to turn down the blue color in the background. Your Honor, it's too much, even for me. Let's give it a little bit more of an England. A little bit more gray. Okay, that softened it up a little bit. Maybe we'll go back in after and add some more brightness, but it was causing me physical pain. So Daphne and the Duke are in love, but not really. They're pretending. But it's okay that they're pretending, because it's going to make it okay for Daphne to get married to someone other than the guy she hates, who in this episode we learned was trying to rape her in the park. And I'm going to say something that is not hard to phrase appropriately. I didn't realize he was trying to rape her because his attempt was so weak sauce. Like, he loomed over her. I mean, when you're not very tall, people are looming over you all the time. I think he could have at least, like, grabbed her wrist hard or something, you know, just to give us a sense of actual peril. But then she punched him in the face, and it was silly. And here's the thing, and, you know, fault me for this if you must, but I usually think of rape attempts as quite serious. I usually think of them as quite serious scenes. And maybe that's on me. Maybe I need to expand my consciousness. Shut up, Microsoft. You're nothing to me. Yeah, maybe I need to widen my understanding of what we could learn from more silly Billy attempted rape scenes. Oh, God. Okay. So Daphne and Ducat are walking in the park, and they're pretending to be in love, but Daphne wants him to go to 8 balls, and he only wants to go to 6. But she, like, you know, she needs him to put in these appearances so that people will think she's hot, because what's hot about a woman is for other men to desire her, because she is primarily a tool for you to show off to other men about, I don't know, your control over someone else's ability to express their desirable sexuality, I guess. I don't understand a lot of things about sex stuff. Is this the eraser? Oh, thank God. It really is the eraser. Game changed, team. We are living in a future where perhaps my compositions will get better. No, they won't. Oh, was the eraser here all along? Oh, God. Oh my God. It was at the top of the brush selection. It was at the top of the brush selection, Your Honor. My shame is complete. Probably I should put all these windows on different layers, but I'm not. And I haven't, and I'm not going to. Meanwhile, the Featheringtons are worried about their cousin because they're like, she's in confinement. Mother, did you say she's pregnant? And their mother says, don't talk to her. The disease she has, it's contagious. And that's what the Featheringtons are undergoing right now. Then Eloise, the Bridgerton sister, who's a hashtag feminist, and Penelope Featherington, who is her friend, they meet up. And Eloise is talking about how she's a hashtag feminist, and she doesn't want to get married or have children. She wants to, like, go to school, which is relatable. And it makes me worried that she's the character that they put in the show for people like me who want to go to school instead of getting married and having children. And that I'm kind of afraid no matter what they do, it's going to be disappointing to those of us who want to go to school instead of getting married and having children, because that's not what the show is about. And I can't fault the show for its premise being one that is kind of broadly repellent to me, because that's on me for watching it. Penelope doesn't even really care about Eloise's concerns because she's like, I have worse things to worry about. Did you know you could get pregnant without getting married? And Eloise was like, what? I thought you had to be married. And she's like, no, you literally can get pregnant. I know someone, not my cousin, but a maid. And Eloise is like, oh shit, this is crazy news. We got to find out more about what gets you pregnant then, because wow, we're gonna be in big trouble if we just get pregnant for no reason. And I just sidebar. Okay, here is the thing. I know that now and in many times in the past, there were a lot of people who had inadequate access to information about reproduction and sexuality. And I know it's a big problem. And I know I, as a person who lived with the internet in my life and television and movies, and also no one who was hiding the truth about where does a baby come from me, cannot really imagine what that's like. But I don't feel like the old time people were this dumb. I think that they knew. I think that they knew at least a little bit. You may not know where the baby comes from, but I think you do probably have a sense that it's, you know, it's a physical process. Like later they make a joke, the Bridgerton brothers make a joke about, oh, Eloise, haven't you been to the farm? And it's like, a lot of these people had in fact been to the farm. Also, they rode horses all the time. Horses, notoriously horny and, you know, notoriously significant in what they were sharing with the world. I guess it's not also just the show's fault, because I do think part of it comes from the fact that these characters are supposed to be like 14 but they are played by obvious adult women. And so, like, Eloise and Penelope, yeah, they're probably supposed to actually be like just older teens, maybe just figuring out about sex, but they are played by adult women. And it does kind of feel like that even as the women in the show are making their like girl boss declarations, that they're kind of just sexy babies who like kind of do confirm the stereotypes that men hold about them in the story, because they really do have no idea what sex is. People had to figure out how to have sex before language. Like when people were animals, they still did it. I'm just saying. I think even in old-timey times, probably some women knew how to have sex, even fancy women, before they got married. Anthony, for some reason, didn't notice that Daphne and the Duke are publicly in love now, and so he brings Daphne's horrible fiancé, who apparently tried to rape her, to meet with her, only to discover that there's lots of guys courting her now that the Duke said, oh, she's hot, don't worry. And Anthony's really upset about it. He complains to Daphne, and he complains to Mom Bridgerton about how they're undermining his authority. So again, now Daphne is a subordinated person, because Anthony's like, you have to marry Lord Burbrook because I said so. But then also she's like, I'm not gonna. So she is allowed to say no. So she's allowed to not go through with it because she can say no to Anthony, but she's not allowed to not go through with it because she can't say no to Anthony. ? Also, we're supposed to hate Lord Burbrook for not respecting women and being like, oh, I'm just buying the hottest woman. Oh, women are like meat on the market. They're like horses. But we're supposed to still like Anthony, who also does not respect women, who bosses around his mother and his sister, who was absolutely vile in his behavior to the woman that he was having a relationship with last episode. But he is hot. So I don't know. I'm not gelling with Anthony, and I know he's the protagonist of next season, so I'm sad about that. And I'm sad that he's a character because I dislike him. Meanwhile, Duke Hot is engaged in some shirtless bare-knuckle boxing with one of his other bros. And he's punching hotly, and the other guy is also punching hotly. And that's fine. That's fine. And then Anthony bursts in angrily and is like, oh, Duke Hot, you are dating my sister, even though she's my sister. And also, I wanted her to get married to this other guy who sucks. And Duke Hot rightfully is like, you can't make her marry Lord Burbrook. He super duper sucks, and it'll be a big mistake on your part if you were to make her marry him. And of course, Anthony is not receptive to feedback of that kind. Ducat is like, okay, whatever, dude. You're the one who's trying to make your sister marry somebody who sucks, so not my problem. And then Ducat has a flashback, and he has a flashback about how he was a little kid and he was 4 and he was sad because he didn't have a mom and his dad sucked. I lost my card. Okay, there it is. And he didn't have a mom and his life was sad and he just was getting tutored and he never talked because he was so sad. And then one day his dad came to visit him and he was like, this child's still a mute? He's 4 years old. This is unacceptable. And his tutor is like, I mean, he talks pretty good. Or, no, sorry, he writes pretty good. He just doesn't talk. His father's like, that's bullshit. A young man should be chatting. And then Duke Hot says, you're not nice. Because then his father comes to try and hit him, which, you know, is just a primo way to get a kid to talk to you, I think. And that's not, you know, I'm willing to say that's probably historically accurate. No fault there. Just like, Duke Hot's evil dad. He's undeniably evil. They certainly don't skimp on his evilness, which is why it's kind of weird that they skimp on Lord Burbrook's evilness until randomly. Don't concern yourself with the non-Euclidean geometries of that fence. It's fine. Facing abuse, Duke Hot asks his father to not abuse him, but in doing so reveals that he has a cute little stutter. And his father, you know, obviously horrified by this, disgusted, horrified, shocked, appalled, and says, I cannot possibly have this child as my heir. He's an imbecile. He storms away and he says, I hate you, son. And so we learn, okay, that's why his father hates him. His father also says some shit about, you know, we only will keep this title if we prove that we are extraordinary, which I don't understand because that is so fully not how hereditary titles work that my mind is boggled. I don't know what they mean by that. I don't know what they want me to take away from that. I'm worried that it's some kind of indicator that racism is still real in the Bridgerton universe after all. I would love for this to just be a show with race-blind casting. Like, I am not turning to shows like this for like hard-hitting analysis of history. It's only when it's like something that they want to deal with. Like, I'm fine with if we're not going to talk about it, we're just not going to talk about it. But then for the love of God, please don't make us try to talk about this in Bridgerton, the show that has already had a silly attempted rape scene. Please. Meanwhile, Marina, the Featherington cousin, is in her room, and she's sadly reading letters that we presume were sent to her by the guy who impregnated her. And Penelope comes in to bring her some snacks, because Penelope is a nice person. Really, though, it's a ruse to find out, how did she get pregnant? But she doesn't provide any really useful explanations of it, because she starts talking about love, and that confuses Penelope further, because she knows, first and foremost, she's seen people who are not in love, such as her parents, have children together. It's not really a useful explanation. I don't blame her for being confused and annoyed. Also in this conversation, Marina reveals that the Napoleonic Wars are real in the Bridgerton universe. I don't know. I guess I just kind of feel like that's important. That's kind of serious. Why is the Queen never talking about that and not like who's hot or not is my question, I guess. Why does that never come up for the Queen? The Queen, speaking of the Queen, she's depressed by the lack of good gossip. She's not dealing with the Napoleonic Wars at all. She's watching a sexy contortionist, and she's depressed by the lack of good gossip. She doesn't care about the drama among the proles. So the Queen decides she needs to stir some drama. So she sends letters to people who are promising in drama-related activities, including Daphne's mom, Lady Bridgerton, who is shocked and amazed and excited to be invited to a private tea with the Queen. Lady Bridgerton is really excited about this, and she's like, "Oh, Daphne, you're so wonderful. You've allowed us a chance to hang out with the Queen in person. Doesn't get any better than this." I don't remember what brush I was using for those cobblestones, and at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. Okay, it was this one. All right. Lady Danbury is taking Duke Hotness out to the next event of the season because she also really wants him to marry Daphne. And she's razzing him about his gothness. And then we flash back to when they first met and she went to visit him because she thought that he had died as a child because his father never mentioned him or anything. And then instead she went to his house and found out he was still alive and he was being tutored and he was actually quite smart. He just had a stutter. And she gives him the great advice that if he would just learn to absolutely slay and be good at everything, then he could probably get over his disability, which I think is really helpful. And it's amazing to me that no one's ever thought about that before. And so that's why the Duke Hotness is so hot now. And when they arrive at the ball, they run into Anthony and Daphne right away. And Lady Danbury wisely is like, "Oh, Anthony, I need someone to take me over to get me a nice lemonade." And Anthony's like, "Oh, okay, Lady Danbury, I'll go get you a lemonade." And so leaving Duke Hotness and Daphne alone together so that they can, Lady Danbury believes, be in love, but they believe plot how they are carrying out this ruse so that he doesn't have to get married and she can't get married. And of course, we'll see who's right in the end. And they talk about, this is stressful. Daphne's really worried about whether it's going to work out. But then the music kicks in and they start dancing. And they have a good time together. And it's a perfectly cute little montage of them dancing together and having a good time. And it's a perfectly cute little montage. They have fun together and they do some Regency dancing. And that's nice. Anthony realized they're dancing together. And so he makes Binkerton go and dance with Daphne so that Lord Burbrook, the creepy fiancé, doesn't see. And Anthony goes over to Duke Hotness and says, "Oh, Duke Hotness, stop hitting on my sister. It upsets me. I'm not happy about it. And look, Lord Burbrook is here and he's mad too." Duke Hotness is like, "Lord Burbrook doesn't have the right to be mad. I caught him in the garden being a creep." And Anthony's like, "Wait, seriously? For realsies?" And Lord Burbrook is like, "No. But to his credit, Anthony believes Duke Hotness. and drops him and breaks off the engagement. And Daphne is still mad at Duke Hotness for some reason, which I'm sure is justified. I mean, obviously she gets to control who has information about her sexual traumas. Then they go home from the dance, and Duke Hotness is feeling stressed, so he goes for a walk. And while he's there, Lord Burbrook confronts him and is like, oh, have you been maybe having sex with Daphne? Because then I wouldn't be interested in her. But otherwise, I don't know why you're so interested in her ruining our relationship when you have so many other hot girls to have sex with. And then he is quite rude. Beyond that, even saying some weird things about Duke Hotness's dad and his own, like, sexual escapades that didn't really make a lot of sense. Duke Hotness beats the crap out of him. And then we have a flashback. And we learn that Lady Danbury, after Duke Hotness became more like a tween, like 10, 12 years old, she took him to his dad to show him off and be like, see, he's a great son. He's going to be an awesome duke, and you made a mistake when you kicked him out of the family just for having a stutter and being a bit odd. And then he's so intimidated by his evil father that his stutter comes back, and his dad has a big meltdown rage fit about it and terrorizes both Duke Hotness and Lady Danbury, and they have to run away in sadness, and that's sad. And you're like, damn, he really had a bad dad. It makes sense. They hinted at this. Now they're showing it to us. He had a bad dad. Not the Duke of Hotness's fault. And then they go to a picnic. Daphne is worried the stakes of the picnic are quite high because Lady Whistledown causing McFucking problems like usual. She's speculating about, why are Daphne and the Duke so close now, but he doesn't seem to have proposed marriage to her. Are they perhaps in some kind of fake dating relationship? Which is not the first thing I would have guessed, but I do think Lady Whistledown is a more experienced romance viewer than I. Okay. This will be Penelope and new layer for Eloise. I think they're about the same height. Maybe Eloise is a little bit taller. Anyway, that'll be Eloise. And so the picnic is high stakes. Duke Hotness really needs to make it look like he's into Daphne, and Daphne really needs to get suitors into her. But instead, right after Anthony wisely apologizes to his sister and is like, I'm sorry you didn't trust me enough to tell me that Lord Burbrook tried to molest you. Clearly, I'm doing something wrong. And she's like, yeah, you're doing something wrong. You suck. Just after Duke Hot shows up and he's talking to Daphne and they're trying to make their plan, Lord Burbrook shows up and he has some kind of weird marriage license that he says means that Daphne has to marry him. Oh God, that's too long of an arm. That's far too long an arm. He has some kind of weird marriage license that means Daphne has to marry him in a way that is just blatantly incoherent and poorly explained. And he's like, I think it has to do, like, if she doesn't marry him, he's going to say that she had sex with him in the deep, dark walk. But, like, even so, this is the wrong layer. Even so, like, I just feel like if her family is on her side and Duke Hotness is still like, hey, you suck, Lord Burbrook. I don't know. It's just not very convincing, like, that this is going to ruin her. And also, like, and then what? Like, if Duke Hotness and her brother are still on her side and they testify that she is a good person, like, is everybody going to turn against them right away? He's just not a very effective villain, Lord Burbrook. He has no swag and he has no coherent motivation, and his methods for forcing them to do what they want, like, we haven't seen the consequences of what it is to be thrown out of society. We haven't seen anyone who's, like, had their life ruined by, being a spinster or anything. We've seen only Marina, who nobody else knows she's pregnant except the Featheringtons, and they're keeping her secret. Like, I guess if we could just see one person who Daphne's like, if I lose my chance at marriage, I'm going to end up being just like this person who's really sad. Like, even if it was just like, oh, my spinster aunt, she's, a childless cat lady. Okay, JD Daphne. I don't know, like, the stakes are not hitting for me, Your Honor. Okay. Anyway, Penelope's hair is orange, and it's curly. Lord Berbrook is going to force Daphne to marry him using methods that are unclear to me and don't even really make sense in the context of the misogynistic society of Regency England, especially when other times Daphne's been like, no, and also we don't really have any concrete sense of what the consequences are of not getting married or of being, canceled by society for being skanky. And we've seen lots of women who are clearly having sex before marriage because they're having sex with Anthony and Duke Hot, and they seem pretty happy with life, which does, to be fair, jive with my view of real life. It doesn't help me understand why the world of the show isn't other than that. It's old-timey times. Don't remember what either of these actresses really look like. I think she's going to be smaller mouth even. And they're both worried, which is why they're frowning in this picture. No, that was a mustache. I think I'm doing better. I think I'm doing better, actually, than last time. I don't remember what color Penelope's eyes are either. So they're going to be this color. She looks like she has clinical depression. And she's right for that. How are they going to deal with Lord Berbrook forcing, what's her name, Daphne, to marry him? Anthony wants to duel Berbrook, which I think would be pretty cool. His mom says no to, which is just classic mom behavior. Eloise doesn't know what she wants to do, but she's super scared about this idea that somebody could force you to get married to them, which I am also super scared of. I think it's messed up that they live in this society, and I'd like to know what kind of reform efforts are ongoing. Where is Mary Wollstonecraft in the Bridgerton universe is all I'm asking. Clearly she's not on Bridgerton, though. Any hoot. And Daphne's like, I have no choice if my reputation is ruined. This is because Penelope has large breasts, BTW. Nothing wrong with that, but I need to depict reality as it happens. So she's having large breasts in my picture too. If you object to that, why are you watching Bridgerton or indeed coverage of Bridgerton? Also, I know you don't object to that. So Daphne's resigned herself to marry the guy who tried to molest her in the garden, which sucks for her and is sad. That's bad, and it should feel bad, and we should all be mad about it. If we didn't know that it was going to be solved by the end of the episode, come on, Scooby-fucking-Doo style. Lady Bridgerton, she's quite worried about it also, and she goes to tea with the queen. But now she's got a big concern, which is that the queen is gonna be mad that she's not marrying her daughter to the hot duke for some reason. And indeed, the queen is like, it would severely affect the whole family of the Bridgertons if you were to not marry someone hot like Duke Hastings and instead marry someone lame like Lord Berbrook. And I don't know why the queen is this involved. What is her deal? What is going on with her? Why does she care? Why does everyone care so much what she thinks? Why isn't she worried about the Napoleonic War? So Lady Bridgerton's like, oh, we got to solve this Berbrook problem. And so are the rest of the family. They're all very worried. Eloise is out in the backyard smoking on the swing set, which is also like, where is their backyard? They live in town. And when Bridgerton comes up and he's like, damn, can I get a smoke? And she's like, yeah, sure. And she's like, I wish things were different, Bridgerton. And he's like, yeah, I also wish things were different, which makes me think he must be the gay brother. Like, they wouldn't just have him say, I wish things are different and have him not be the gay brother, right? Like, what else could he wish was different? I'm almost intrigued to find out what happens to Bridgerton for that reason, but not optimistic. Not optimistic at all. So Lady Bridgerton is like, I gotta girl boss my way out of this situation. We got too many problems going on with this Berbrook guy. So she does the obvious. She invites his mom over for a party. And they have tea time, and Daphne's depressed. And Lady Bridgerton spends a lot of time talking to Berbrook's mom, who's also, of course, cartoonishly annoying and inappropriate and not attractive in a normative fashion, so that you know she's a bad person, too. And meanwhile, their servants are down in the basement doing servant things, gossiping. And so Lady Bridgerton's servants wisely discover secret, sensitive information from the Berbrook servants, to wit, that Lord Berbrook has an illegitimate son with a maid whom he sent away and whom he does not support financially, which is shitty. That's a dick move. It's uncool, and it makes him, oh God, a less likable character, except he wasn't a likable character already, but he also wasn't an interesting character, even in his unlikability. But them's the breaks, I guess, when you're a Bridgerton villain. And so Lady Bridgerton is like, okay, we're going to girl boss our way out of this because you know the secret power of women is gossiping. So we're going to gossip this up all around town, and then Lady Whistledown's going to pick it up, and Lord Berbrooke is going to be so embarrassed he's going to have to go out of town. And they're like, OMG, girl boss powers, women for the win because of our power of gossiping, the thing that all women are good at and that they love to do. And so they gossip it up about Lord Berbrooke and his illegitimate son that he doesn't support. And wouldn't you know it, it reaches Lady Whistledown's pages. She talks about it. Lord Berbrooke's embarrassed. He leaves town. Daphne doesn't have to marry him. And Anthony apologizes. And on the one hand, good. But on the other hand, what is going to be his story now? Because he has apologized to Daphne. He apologizes to his mom, who rightfully just razzes the shit out of him. About how much he sucks. What is his story going to be about? Now that he drank some respect women juice, like, is he done? Are we done with Anthony? Is that what Anthony was supposed to learn 2 episodes in, and he drank respect women juice and now he's a cool guy and then he's going to be the protagonist of season 2? Or worse, is he just going to be around and annoying me? That seems equally likely. Really hard to draw feet from the front. Eloise, who is really glad that Daphne doesn't have to marry such a horrible guy, comes in to talk to Daphne and says, I'm really glad you don't have to marry such a horrible guy, but, like, do you ever get really scared about getting married and having children and stuff? Like, I remember the last birth that our mother had to Hyacinth, the youngest of our siblings. Like, our mom almost died, and it was right after our dad died, and that was really sad, and it scared me a lot, and I don't know how I feel about it, this whole thing about having to get married and have children. Daphne assures Eloise that everyone will be happily ever after and it's going to be fine and you just have to be brave, and then the good future is awaiting you, you know, light at the end of the tunnel. And Eloise wisely intuits that this is bullshit, and she's right for that. Where did I put her body? Yes. Okay, I'm going to have to turn off all these parts of Penelope, though, so that I can see her. Facts about Eloise: she has dark hair. These are some facts. I don't know if she has a bun that's visible. I'm going to go with not. I'm thinking she's not going to have a bun that's visible because I don't feel like drawing it. Is why. She does have horrible bangs, though. Yep, awful bangs. Awful, god-awful bangs. This is true to life, though. And then she has long hair that goes bloop, bloop, bloop on the way down, I think. Don't tell me if she doesn't. So Eloise and Daphne leave their conversation sort of inconclusively because Daphne now feels called out and, like, is questioning whether she does really believe it all works out happily and everybody gets to fall in love. And in this episode, it's clarified that Daphne specifically is looking to get a love match. But I don't know. Can you really get to know someone in one season well enough to know that, you know, you're in love with them and you want to marry them forever? It doesn't feel good to me. It makes me anxious. At the next ball, and this is the end of the episode. Oh god, that's too small. Yeah, it's good enough. It's good enough. It's fine. It's fine, Shirley. Oh, it's not fine. It's not fine. At the next ball, Duke Hotness is wearing red instead of black, so we know he's going through some character emotions. It's not supremely clear what they are until we get rolling, but you know what they are. We all know what they are. He's going to be in love with Daphne in a sec. We all know this. I think that Eloise is usually wearing, like, kind of purple gray, and she is usually wearing a little bit more of a conservative outfit than our fellow Bridgertonians, which is fine. In fact, it's preferable to yours truly. but again, you knew that already. And Duke Hotness and Daphne actually have a pretty good talk while they're dancing, of Duke Hotness saying, yeah, I had to stand up. I'm sorry that I shared confidential information about your personal life, but I really hate bullies, and Lord Berbrook was a jerk, so I didn't want him to be able to push you around and be mean, and it upset me that Anthony was making you marry him. And she's like, that's fair, but the stakes for this are really high for me. This is for the rest of my life, and I really want to make a good choice. And so they're like, okay, all right, we can understand each other, and that's good. That's positive. And so our ruse will be more effective. But then Duke Hotness goes and stands to the side while she goes to dance with other suitors, and we see on his face that, oh no, he's definitely in love with Daphne now. But what's this? He has a last flashback, and his father is on his deathbed, and he's going, I'm dying, literally. And Duke Hotness comes in, and his father says, oh, my son, at last you've become a great duke, and I repent of the mean things I said about you, and I want you to be my heir, and I'm so glad you've turned out to be a cool, hot guy, and not a weird person with a stutter, because, that would be a real disaster. You can carry on my Hastings line. Duke Hotness says, joke's on you, Dad, you asshole. I'm never getting married, and I'm never having children. Furthermore, I hate you, and you should literally drop dead right now. And his dad says, okay, and dies. And so we know why Duke Hastings can never get married, because he told his evil father he would never get married. And, was he wrong? Not really. His dad really sucked. I don't blame him for not wanting to give that dude the satisfaction. And that's something I do appreciate about Duke Hotness. Say what one will about him, he is a character who has motivations and, indeed, personality traits. Like, two of them, and they are hot and angry and mad at his father. But he has a backstory, and that backstory has been articulated to us. So how angry can I be? Not that angry. He's okay. Duke Hotness, you can stay. And is that the end of the episode? Yes. His words, which kill his father, dead. So now I have watched 2 episodes of Bridgerton. And I would say, I gotta keep talking because this picture's not done yet. I would say I liked this episode better than the pilot, which is fair because pilots rarely good. They are rarely good. And so that's not on them. I didn't like the absurd conflict with Lord Berbrook. It still didn't make sense, the method by which he claimed he was forcing Daphne, to marry him, because there was no method. He was just saying shit. He was just saying, now you have to marry me, like a silent movie villain. He didn't even have the swag of a silent movie villain. He didn't even have a mustache. And Daphne she doesn't project the sense of someone who is going to do her duty and sacrifice her happiness for her family. Not that she should. I don't think that she should. Wow, okay. Okay, conclusively, this week was worse than last week's in terms of my drawing. This was a lot worse in terms of my drawing. Penelope and Eloise look scary. They look really scary to me. They look like they're coming to beat me up. And that's fair. They should, because I did such a bad job. They look like if paper dolls were in a street gang. And also, Eloise looks like Wednesday Addams. I did like the episode better. I liked that the Duke had a backstory and we learned about it. And it was related to his character motivations. Not that they're particularly deep, but that's fine. It's a silly show. I love Archie. What are his motivations at any moment? He has the intellectual complexity of a large dog. So just knowing that the Duke, he had a dad, he hated him, and we found out last episode about his dad, who he hated, and now we saw, okay, hating his dad, it was fairly justified. It was pretty legit. Why not hate your dad? That's something. We have a character. But it did make me wonder. It did make me ponderate. In my last review, I talked about how Daphne has no character traits other than being pretty and wanting to get married, which is fine, I guess. And in the time intervening between then and now, I have thought about it, and I thought about, yes, it's true, that's a standard part of the romance genre, and like main female character is sort of a cipher so that you can project yourself onto her or connect with her. And I guess what I struggle with is that I don't want to like identify or connect with a character who has no qualities. Like, why would I want to be Daphne other than that a hot guy is interested in her? Why wouldn't I want to be Duke Hotness? He's also hot. He's tough. He gets to beat people up. He has a story about his life that's like relatable, that he had to like struggle with bad family members and a type of disability, and that he figured out how he wanted to live his life and made choices and things. And I don't know, that seems like a character that I would want to be more than a character who has no qualities. And this is why some people have accused me of not being a woman before, which I don't think is really fair. I don't think wanting to be a dynamic actor is a sign that you're a secret man. I feel like I'm learning things and I'm understanding things about like romance and about, I don't know, the construction of women's role in society, but it's not making me feel good. It's making me feel troubled. I still miss Riverdale, and I thought about the key difference, I think, between Bridgerton and Riverdale for me, how I would articulate it, because certainly I would never say that Riverdale isn't also quite stupid, and I wouldn't say that Riverdale also makes more sense. It certainly makes less sense than Bridgerton. I'll put that right out there. It makes less sense. But the way that Bridgerton is constructed is that even though it takes place in this Regency setting, it's almost kind of like a high school setting also. Like, the queen is, she's the prom queen. Like, everybody, for some reason, her approval really, really matters for how you should conduct your life. And the approval of everybody else also really, really matters for how you should conduct your life. And because there's balls, you get to go to prom every weekend, and you get to go to fundraisers and CW type events. But Bridgerton kind of is saying, I think, that this is like, yes, that's a fantasy. Imagine if you got to go to prom every weekend and you got to have dating drama every day. You got to dress in a prom dress every day. And that's kind of like a positive fantasy. Whereas, I don't know, for me, Riverdale was always kind of parodic. Like, it was an anti-fantasy in terms of high school, because it was like, yes, the stakes of going to prom are so high. The stakes of dating are so high. They're so high that if you choose to date the wrong person or you make a big mistake at prom, the killer might get you, which is just utterly deranged. Also, I guess if you're someone who doesn't identify with that fantasy, like doesn't connect with it and doesn't feel a desire to it, for me, it was kind of a reconciliatory sensation almost, where like the stakes of this stupid thing are so ridiculous that they're destructive. Like, the killer is prom. The killer is society. Riverdale, we live in a society. Whereas they don't live in a society in Bridgerton. They live in a fantasy, viewing that fantasy and viewing it with the understanding that this is a fantasy for many women that is somehow appealing to them is, I guess, further alienating, disturbing. I don't know. We'll continue developing these concepts as we watch the show, because we're still in it. It's gonna keep happening. I really hope I can remember a simpler scene to draw next week, because I'm gonna say, in this context, perspectival drawing is beyond me. It's beyond me. This has been your Ween. Godspeed. Let us hope next week's Bridgerton brings us an easier scene to draw.